Okay, hi everybody. So these are my post workout thoughts, I guess you could call them. So in the video, as you'll probably already have seen, did a javelin throw or spear throw, javelin, spear, whichever you want to call it, and a shot put. Mainly, I wanted to do this activity as a practice of the same physical martial culture that goes into fighting, but the sportified activity that isn't directly, conflict between two individuals, either in a life or death scenario like a duel, or in a tournament scenario like a Blasfectin tournament fight, like a Feshkula fight, where the goal is to still hit each other, but you're not trying to kill the other person. I wanted to focus more on the activities that do derive themselves from the martial activity, but are not themselves the martial practice of combat, so to speak. I know spear throwing still is technically a martial or an aspect of martial combat, but in the sense of trying to use it as a way to test and improve physical conditioning. Throwing the spear as a sport is different than throwing the spear at a target or for distance. As a sport is different than trying to throw the spear and hit somebody with the spear. Same thing with throwing the stone. So I wanted to test these out and play with these because I do think first of all, they're fun to do in general. Not every aspect of fighting is the fight. It is the training to become a better fighter. And that's kind of what I wanted to focus on, was testing these things out, seeing where I kind of fall in with it, which I'll get more into my opinions on how good I did at both of them later. But I do think there is a necessity to do these things to see and feel how they feel. I don't know necessarily if it will make me a better fencer or SEA fighter or harness technique fighter, but I do think they kind of give me an idea of where I am with physical output in a martial sense, if that kind of makes sense. I think it's something fun to do. I think it's something that should be practiced, especially if you're into the historical physical culture of the Middle Ages and ancient world, not just the martial culture, but also it's exercise, and that's what I'm trying to use this as a way to exercise my body to prep myself for fighting and make myself a better fighter and get a general sense of what it might have been like at the time for people who fought, what they did in training to be able to fight outside of learning from a fight master or something like that. Okay, since I've gotten kind of that explanation out of the way, I'll go into some of my thoughts on the two practices I did. I'll talk about the shot put first. I've never thrown a shot put. The 8-pound ball, I don't know if that's light or heavy. I'm assuming it's light, but because I've never thrown it, it's probably better that I'm using a 8-pound medicine ball and not like 10, 15, 20-pound. I don't know the weights, ball of any sort to throw. And a little background on why I'm doing a stone throw. It's something that's been a practice in the Middle Ages and ancient times. Warriors and athletes would do as conditioning and strength training and whatnot. You're going to throw a stone. Some of the oldest weapons in the world were sticks and stones. So throwing a stone takes a huge amount of explosive energy to actually get it to travel further and more accurately. And that's something that I was probably aware of, but didn't really realize how much effort it took into actually getting that thing to launch. Sorry, sorry. to get that thing to that 8-pound ball to launch from my shoulder at any distance. It did not feel like it went very far. I've seen shot putters, and I think they've definitely thrown it. I don't think. I know they definitely throw further than I could with my little medicine ball. But I did want to see the amount of effort it takes to do that. Another thing I could probably do is incorporate a slightly larger medicine ball in more maybe a two-handed throw, or even like trying to throw. If you ever seen like the guys do the cake throws where they try to throw it over like a bar that's like 10 feet up in the air or something like that, that's something else I could probably do later on and try out because it's going to be a different action and a different type of strength, or different a strength in a different area of the body in order to get it to do the thing that you want it to do. But yeah, there's a lot of explosive energy that goes into throwing a heavy object. More than I really thought. I thought a lot of it would be the momentum from like the step and turn or anything like that. Then, and like, that would carry it and my arm would just kind of guide it. There was a lot more in my arm and shoulder that I used that I thought I would actually end up needing to use. The other thing which was the spear, throwing the spear, that's more a finesse skill. You could sit there and probably full send it, but then if you're throwing it too hard, it's gonna turn the spin. I tried that, and it would eventually, if I threw too hard and tried to carry it more with the energy from my arm and my step, then it started to kind of turn. And I really think I saw that more on the left side. I was trying to use more strength on my left side than on my right side because I'm right hand dominant when throwing both of them. But especially on the spear, I think I was trying to put out too much strength in a single shot, which kind of caused it to rotate. There were probably other issues that, being right hand dominant, my left hand's a little stupid, the left side's a little stupid, so it's a little harder to get more of that finesse in. But there's not as much strength because the spear's typically lighter than an 8-pound rock, or 8-pound medicine ball in my case. So there's a lot more finesse into it, especially if I want it to land the way I want it. I don't want it to land, parallel to the shaft, parallel to the ground, or the butt of the spike to land first. I want the head to land first, because that's the business end of the weapon. You want it to be the first thing to make contact. And you want it to be mostly just a straight shot in. You don't want it to hit sideways, because if it hits sideways, it's going to turn out. If it hits straight in, if it was a real spear, not a foam-tipped spear, it would land and you would stick. If it hits kind of off-centered to more than an acceptable degree, then it's going to hit, spin out, and it's going to not stick in the target, but it's also going to damage the tip of the weapon. And there's a lot more other finesse things with the spear than with the stone. The stone doesn't have a center balance point like the spear does, so it's easier to throw it, even though you're having to put out a lot more explosive energy and strength to get it to move further. The spear, you have to find its balance point in order for it to actually sail through the air evenly and without problem. If you're holding it too far to the back of the spear, then that weight's going to pull the head forward and it's going to hit and it's going to cartwheel out. If you're holding it too far forward, then the butt spike's going to come further over the head because all the weight's on that end. So you need to find that center balance point on the spear. But yeah, and those are kind of the differences I noticed. And I'm pretty sure it's an obvious thing for people, but I do want to talk about it in that sense and try to like give my insight as I did the practice or having done the practice. But yeah, and I think this was actually a really good practice for physical training, especially throwing the shot put. Like I said, I think if I getting a heavier ball, or more heavier balls, or even a sandbag, and throw that around, I think that will definitely help with the explosive energy that it takes to wrestle, especially in harness, because when you're fighting in harness, you can't really be gentle. You have to be able to put out a lot of explosive energy in order, especially if you're fighting a bigger guy or a guy who's more has a lower center of mass, because if you're going to throw him to the ground, you have to be able to deal with that much more weight in a very sudden and violent fashion. And I think that's something that I'm going to try to incorporate more, is definitely doing more heavy lifting and throwing of heavier objects safely. I'm not going to overdo it. I'm not going to jump from 8 pounds to 120-pound sandbag, but I am going to level that up as I can. The spear, I do like throwing the spear more or less just for fun. This isn't my first time throwing the spear. These are all things that the spear's definitely something that I've done before with actual spears, and there's a lot of nuance that I picked up initially throwing real spears that helped me with throwing the foam tip spear that kind of translates back and forth. And I do think it's a great martial practice. I think it more or less just fun. And also, learning the finesse. There's a lot that I'm going to do now, seeing how uneven the skill is between my right arm and my left arm. I'm definitely going to try to focus on trying to get my left arm to get more of those smaller muscles that deal with more of the finesse aspects of throwing, and hopefully that will help me become a better fighter with my left hand. I'm very decent with my right hand, but there are weaknesses in my left hand that do need to be addressed, and I think this can help me address some of that, especially with accuracy and power and things like that. But yeah, these were just some of my thoughts. I wanted to kind of give a summarization essay at the very end of this video. I don't know. But I did want to talk about it and kind of just give a wrap up to what I've done. I do think I'm going to try to make more videos like this, especially going into my medieval workout routine, which does involve a lot of heavy lifting of stones and heavier objects. It incorporates some more modern practices, because there's a lot of things modernly that we've picked up in the realm of physical culture that will be beneficial to that. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you come back for the next video. I'm not going to make you a guarantee about when that next video is going to be, but I'm definitely going to make another video, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later. And I do hope you guys come back, and if hopefully this helps some people want to pursue the physical culture aspects outside of just swinging a sword at somebody else, the other small things that you would do as a warrior, as a knight, as a person training martial arts, the things that aren't directly the martial art, but are, relate back to it. But yeah, thank you guys. Y'all have a good day.